So, welcome to course entitled Advanced Geotechnical Engineering in Module 5 Stability of Slopes. So, this is Module 5 Lecture 5 on stability of slopes. So, in the previous lecture we have understood about the effect of rainfall on stability of slopes, and with an increase in rainfall intensity we have seen that the factor of safety decreases upon increase in the pore water pressure within the slope. And having understood about the different causative factors for this slope instabilities, in this lecture we will look into various methods for enhancing the stability of slopes. This means slope stabilization techniques. What are the various means of ensuring that a slope can be maintained stable. So, this lecture deals with slope stabilization methods or methods for enhancing stability of slopes. So, we have various methods of slope stabilization in vogue. The slope stabilization methods are generally reduce driving forces and basically increase the resisting forces, or sometimes both. So, the slope stabilization methods generally reduce the driving forces which are causative forces for instability and increase resisting forces. The driving forces can be reduced by excavation of the material from the unstable portion, what it is called is the head portion, and drainage of the water to reduce the hydrostatic pressures acting on the unstable zone. So, if you are able to do removal of the material from the unstable zone and the draining of water to reduce the hydrostatic pressure acting on unstable zone, one way this can lead to reduction in the driving forces. The resisting forces can be increased by various means. Primarily the drainage that increases the shear strength of the ground, the draining of water reduces the hydrostatic pore water pressures and thereby increasing the shear strength of the ground, and elimination of the weak strata or the potential failure zone. So, elimination of the weak strata or the potential failure zone, or in a way with some of the techniques what we do is that we reinforce the unstable zone with a stable zone, and the building of retaining structures or other supports by retaining the soil with an appropriate retaining solution, there is a possibility that the resisting forces can be increased. Another method which is chemical treatment to increase the shear strength of the ground. One of the prominent method which is being used is by lime stabilization, that is called by lime columns or some lime slurry injection, which results in a sort of hardening, chemical hardening. So, the slope stabilization methods generally reduce driving forces, increase resisting forces or both. Then the resisting forces can be increased by primarily by drainage that increases the shear strength of the ground, elimination of the weak strata or the potential failure zone, and building of retaining structures at an appropriate location. And there are also some techniques where if there is a deep seated failure, then you need to adopt a technique where the forces are transferred to the deeper strata, and this is called piled slope stabilization. And to retain the soil at the surface level, there is a method which is used for called suppressor walls, which are attached to these piles. And the fourth method what we said is that the chemical treatment, which actually can result in hardening and increase the shear strength of the ground. Unloading, which is one of the method to reduce the driving forces within a sliding mass. Suppose if there is a portion which is being subjected to slide, or then unloading is one type of a method where the slope stabilization technique to reduce the driving forces. So, next this thing is excavation is a common method to increase the stability of a slope by reducing the driving forces that contribute to the movement. This excavation, in the sense that this includes removing the weight from the upper part of the slope, that is called head of the slope, and removing all unstable or potentially unstable materials, and flattening of slopes and benching of slopes. So flattening of slopes in the sense that the slope which is actually having a steep inclination can be made flattened, and this increases the also the stability of a slope. And benching, basically the provision of benches or berms increases the stability of a slope. So with an appropriate design, there is a possibility that the stability of a slope can be enhanced by removing the weight from the upper part of the slope, or removing all unstable or potentially unstable materials, and flattening of slopes and benching of slopes. The flattening of the slopes, basically in this particular figure, a cross section of a slope is shown. The slope which is the profile which is actually shown here is a one which is actually steeper than the slope section which is shown here too, is slightly flatter. Let us assume that with slope cross section 1, this is the potential failure surface L1, and with the slope cross section 2, that means that the slope of 2 is flatter than the slope of 1, and the slip surface or potential failure surface is L2. So the flattening of the slope not only reduces the driving forces, but also tends to force the failure surface deeper into the ground. So the flattening of the slope not only reduces the driving forces, but also tends to force the failure surface deeper into the ground. So one of the options is that flattening of the slopes, but many times if any structures which are actually present close to the surface of the slope, there is a possibility that the flattening option may not be viable. The another popular method to increase the stability of a slope at the downstream particularly is the provision of rock fill buttress. The rock fill buttress, provision of rock fill buttress is nothing but a simple method basically to increase the slope stability, and this is basically to increase the counter reaction at the downstream of the slope, that is especially at the toe of the slope, and which counterforce the resisting failure. So the rock fill buttress basically consists of with stones rather than soil. If you use this buttress material or a riprap instead of soil, it is preferable because the frictional resistance between these granular or stones is high, and has the resistance, again good resistance against the shear forces or disturbing forces, and same time the slope is actually devoid of water because of the free draining capability of these buttress materials, which are nothing but the stones. So rock fill buttress is basically a simple method to increase the slope stability. Basically this is done in hilly areas where particularly when the slopes are actually constructed, or highway or highway or railway networks are constructed by using cut and fill methods. In order to increase the stability of a slope at downstream end, it is advisable to provide rock fill buttresses depending upon the necessity, which to increase the slope stability and to increase the weight of this basically is to increase the weight of the material at the toe, and which creates the counter force that resists the force. But this riprap which is provided is to be in the form of stones instead of soil, because it has a greater frictional resistance to the shear forces, and is also has excellent free draining capabilities. Then another very recent technique which is coming up, we said that the removal of material from the head of the slope, but if sometime we need a certain elevation to be maintained, and but at the head of the slope we need the so called the slope profile has to be maintained. The one of the very recent techniques is to use lightweight materials. Traditionally sawdust and other materials are used, but the sawdust actually is prone for biodegradability. So in view of that, it has to be protected against the biodegradability up to some extent. So in the recent past, there is a technology which is called use of geofoam in slope stabilization. Particularly EPS is nothing but expanded polystyrene, which comes in blocks of different sizes, and they can be placed one above the other, like which is actually shown here, and the fill mass volume can be achieved, and then this pavement system and other aspects can be provided. So here this should have a cover which actually prevents the intrusion of any other into matter into this particular zone, and these geofoam is actually available in different densities, basically varies from 12 kg per meter cube to about 40-50 kg per meter cube, and depending upon the type of application, one need to select a particular type of geofoam. And for this type of application, reasonably as there are high compressive stresses, it is maybe advisable to go for high density geofoam materials. But however, there are by using this material, it is very advantageous to reduce the weight at the head of the slope, and but it actually has got a particular failure modes, and the failure modes can actually happen within the soil without interacting or interfering with the blocks. So there can be external instability, internal stability, and pavement system failures. So the major components of an EPS block geofoam system after Arenello et al. 2009 is actually shown here. So this is a portion, this is the fill mass which is with EPS blocks and a soil cover. You can see that the soil cover, and sometimes here also they provide the intermediate soil covers depending upon the requirement, and this is the pavement system, and this is the existing slope material which is regraded and provided, and the benching is provided to ensure the enough resistance along the this particular surface, and this is the lower slope and this is the upper slope. So one way it is actually used very widely nowadays with particular type of materials called EPS block geofoam. But as we said, there are different types of failures. The first and foremost is from the localized failures within the soil, that is the downstream failure, and a global failure here, and the upper slope failure, that is above the this portion where lightweight material is provided, and this particular type of failure is actually failure surface passing through the blocks as well as the downstream surface, as well as here also in the upstream portion. So there can be possible potential failures. So while designing this, these failure surfaces have to be ensured, have to be checked so that the adequate stability can be ensured. So while using for the stability analysis, the appropriate strength properties of the geofoam need to be adopted, and as well as their unit weights can be obtained and can be used in the analysis. The other failure, which is in case of seismic instability, the blocks can actually slide altogether. That means that if there is an excitation force, because the resistance is very low, as the weight is very low, there can be a force which actually can make the blocks to slide. So involving the horizontal sliding of the entire embankment. So this is one danger in case of seismic stability, and this is an external seismic stability failure involving overturning of an entire geofoam portion. So the figure which is below in this slide ensures shows the external seismic stability failure involving the overturning of an entire vertical embankment about the toe of the embankment. Then in this particular slide there is this is a type of internal stability failure, where internal seismic stability failure where there is a slippage between the blocks. That means that the magnified version which is actually shown here, where the core soil will be subjected to disturbance and there is a slippage which actually happens between these two block surfaces. So these need to be ensured, and there are some means of in the field means of ensuring the stability by an appropriate anchoring from one block to another block, so that the entire system behaves like the monolithic unit. And this is another type of internal failure where local bearing failure of the blocks will happen, and this is actually can cause because the external load or stress which is actually more than the compressive strength of the blocks, then there is a possibility that these bearing failure of the blocks can occur, and which can lead to an internal stability failure as far as EPS geoform slope system is concerned. In addition to that, there can be some pavement cracking failures which can cause because of this. So these are the with the technology there is also the different modes of failures are discussed, basically to make aware of the need of understanding which is required in this area. So then another appropriate technique for enhancing the stability of the slope what we discussed is the drainage, so that the drainage of water reduces the hydrostatic pressure, and so the shear strength of the ground can be enhanced. So adequate drainage of the water is the most important element of a slope stabilization scheme for both existing as well as the potential slopes prone failure. So the adequate drainage of water is the most important element of a slope stabilization scheme for both existing as well as the slopes which are actually prone for failure. So drainage is effective because it increases the stability of the soil and reduces the weight of the solid sliding mass. And drainage, the way of providing this draining of water from the slope, there can be two ways. One is called surface drains and subsurface drains. The surface drains can be through either surface ditches along the slope, which is done in highway embankments, shallow surface subsurface drains, or surface drainage is especially important at the head of the slide, basically so that the water is diverted, where a system of cut-off ditches that cross the head wall of the slide, and lateral drains to lead the runoff around the edge of the slide, basically they are effective. So the drainage techniques are basically the two types, one is surface drainage and the other one is the subsurface drainage. The surface drainage can be through the either surface ditches or shallow subsurface drains. The basic surface drainage system is actually at the head of the slide, that is at the top, where the system of cut-off ditches that cross the head wall of the slide, and lateral drains lead to the runoff and the edge of the slides, basically they are effective. So the drainage techniques in continuation, the factor of safety against any potential surface that passes below the phreatic surface can be improved by a subsurface drainage. So that means that in the subsurface drainage the methods which can be used are the drainage blankets, trenches, cut-off drains and horizontal drains. So factor of safety of any potential surface, slip surface or a failure surface, and that passes below the phreatic surface can be improved by subsurface drainage. The methods that can be used to accomplish subsurface drainage are drainage blankets and in the form of trenches and cut-off drains and horizontal drains. And another method is called relief wells. Basically the function of these relief wells is to lower the water pressure in layers that are deep down in the subsoil. So primarily these subsoil layers where the water has to be drained cannot be reached by open excavation system. So in such situation, relief wells is a type of subsurface drainage technique which is adopted. The primary function of this is to lower the water pressures in layers that are deep down into the subsoil. And the another technique is the drainage tunnels or galleries when there is a requirement of substantial number of horizontal drains, and this is actually substituted by a drainage tunnel to drain the water. So various subsurface drainage techniques are drainage blankets and trenches, cut-off drains, horizontal drains, and relief wells and drainage tunnels. And we said that the relief wells, which are when it cannot be reached by open excavation for a particular subsoil layer, then relief wells are installed, and the drainage tunnels or galleries, basically they are provided when there is a requirement of substantial number of drains, horizontal drains, then it is substituted by a tunnel or drainage tunnel or a drainage gallery. Then, as I said, another prominent and popular technique of retaining the soil is slope stabilization using retaining walls. The different types of retaining walls are used, like the gravity retaining walls, which is a common application. The other application is to use cantilever retaining walls or reinforced concrete retaining walls, or sometimes when there is abundant availability of the stones locally, then nowadays the gabion retaining walls are also very popular. And very recently the soil tire retaining walls, which are also becoming popular, wherein the used or the tiles which are the waste materials like the tiles, which are actually used in a fashion to with the tire material actually forms the facing of the wall, and then they are actually used with a particular technique to basically to construct soil tire retaining wall to retain the slope or to ensure the slope stabilization using a particular type of retaining wall. So this provision of the gabion walls is nothing but it actually has gabion baskets, and they are filled with a selected amount of stones, which are actually shown here, and which actually ensures because of the excellent drainage characteristics, they ensure the drainage of the water, and to prevent or to loss of the fine soil particles, there is a requirement of provision of a filter layer which is right behind the surface, so that this ensures this is done in the form of by placing a nano-woven geotextile fabric right behind the this surface, so that this will not allow the water to take away the fine soil particles. So this is as I said another type of stabilizing the slope by using retaining walls, and these retaining walls previously started with steel reinforcements. Nowadays we have the steel reinforcement elements are substituted by the polymer strip reinforcements, and which are high strength in nature, and they are used for constructing these retaining walls. And in addition to that, there are also now the polymer materials like polyester geogrids, which are actually used, particularly uniaxial geogrids are used to retain the slope mass, and also with this technique there is a possibility that because of its flexibility that it does not require any nominal foundation, because if the soil which is available is actually having adequate bearing capacity, then it does not require, it requires a simple foundation about a mud bed depth of about 1 meter, and it ensures also vertical face, so that the additional roadway and there is a possibility of at the upstream and downstream end the right of way can be used for other applications at highway transitions and all. Though we provide these retaining walls, but if the failure surface is such that it is traversing beneath the retaining wall, then the provision of this retaining technique may not be useful. So here after Grundmont Bodenmechanik Handbook 2001, a gabion retaining wall which is subjected to excessive forces can actually see here the deformed gabion wall can be seen here, this particular portion, and this is the failure surface which is actually passing right below the retaining wall. So in such situation the slope stabilization is using right retaining walls may be not an appropriate solution. So in such situations popularly techniques called the slope stabilization by using vertical piles is an option, wherein it allows one to transfer the loads to the deeper stratas. So this particular technique by name slope stabilization using vertical piles. So in this a typical cross section which is actually shown here, a slope cross section having a certain slope, and this is the toe of the slope, and this is the unstable soil, and this is the say stable soil, and this is the slip surface or a failure surface. So assume that the piles, the question is that the piles are placed in a row of stabilizing piles embedded within the slope which is actually prone for failure. So that is what actually this sketch is actually shown. The distance between these two, that is called the spacing of these piles, and d is the diameter. So this technique works in a way it actually mobilizes the resisting forces and by transferring the forces to the deeper stratas. So in such situations what will happen is that where the retaining structures survivability is questioned, and this particular technique by using vertical piles is a viable option. So here it is very important to realize and to understand is that where to locate these piles, particularly whether at the toe or whether at the crest of the slope or in the mid distance. And another question which is required to be understood is that what should be the spacing. So some of the studies which we have actually carried out at IIT Bombay and the studies in the recent past studies which are actually being carried out at elsewhere indicates that a phenomenon called arching plays a trivial role in ensuring the mechanism of this pile slope stability technique. So here according to Yoon and Ellis 2009, so here the similar cross section is shown here, and this is the pile loading from the unstable. So the unstable mass actually has exerted a loading, and this is the stabilizing pile, and this is resistance in underlying stable material. So if the piles are located at a distance s from the center to center, so here what actually happens is that the material flows between the piles, and if the piles are close enough then there is a possibility that the development of arching can take place. So arching is nothing but the transfer of the loads from the yielding portion to the non-yielding portions. So here what actually happens is that the arching across the gap develops in a way. What actually happens is that the pile become active in supporting the or restraining the unstable soil mass. So here, and another way of arrangement of these piles is also called as staggered arrangement. In this case what will happen is that you actually have two piles which are actually placed, and then there will be a pile which is actually placed at the center. So like this. So when this actually has a portion, the arrangement when it is done like this, then then it is called as a staggered arrangement. So then it is not called as a discrete row, it is actually called as a staggered arrangement. So there are two patterns, one is called discrete row of vertical piles, or otherwise a staggered arrangement of the vertical piles. And so here this is again a similar typical picture which is actually shown after Ashore and Ardala in 2012, where the load which is actually applied on the pile surface, and the soil pile resistance which is actually shown here. So the driving force induced by displaced soil mass about the sliding surface is actually shown, which is used in the analysis to derive these things. So the next method which is also by the reinforcement or inclusion is the slope stabilization using anchors. Basically this is basically the permanent grouted anchors have been extensively used to provide vertical and lateral support in natural and engineered structures during the past 6 decades. So this slope stabilization using anchors, basically here a row of anchors when they are actually placed at certain inclination, and the possibility that the slope actually can have can have a better stability. So in this case the grouted anchors with fixed length and free length, and basically provide vertical and lateral support to the natural and engineered structures during the past 6 decades. So the N type of anchorage where the tendon is grouted below the potential surface has been used to stabilize the dangerous slopes to a specified safety factor because of the significant technical advantages resulting due to substantial cost savings and reduced construction period, wherein it involves simply a driving of making a borehole and driving installing a tendon and the grouting the fixed length portion, and then making the anchor active by applying a desirable force, so which makes the slope. So this is basically an active anchor wherein it generates the resistance because of the embedded anchorage with the resulting due to grouting which actually done in the fixed length portion. Sometimes if there is a bedrock or a rock outcrop is there, then the soil is actually anchored to the rock outcrop. Otherwise if it is done in soil, it is mandatory to do a verification test, particularly a pull-out test at the pull-out test of the anchor, basically to check the anchor capacity for which is designed and available at the site is in order or not. So in this particular slide what we have studied is that we try to introduce ourselves to the slope stabilization using anchors. Now here in this particular slide a cross section of the slope is shown, wherein we have the inclination of the anchor which is at an angle theta with the horizontal, and this is the potential failure surface which is actually assumed, and this is the angle with alpha with the horizontal, and this is the particular slice having width B and weight W. So here S is nothing but the soil shear strength, and this is the normal reaction which is actually from the soil. Now here this particular force P, which is nothing but the anchor force or tension in the anchor, acts in this direction. So here there are two approaches which are actually used. One is that using the reaction of the resolving the forces like this P along failure surface as well as taking it vertical, that is that P sin theta in this direction and P cos alpha plus theta along the surface in this direction. So there is also the another school of thought to instead of this instead of resolving like this, resolving in the form of resolving like along the horizontal surface, that is P cos alpha plus theta, and this is nothing but P sin alpha plus theta, which is normal to the failure surface, So it actually P sin plus alpha theta minus N, that is the net force which actually acting at the base of the slice. So this we will try to see. One is conventional effect is vertical approach, other one is the normal approach. So the safety factor of the slopes stabilized with the anchors can be calculated by the following two approaches. What we said is that vertical effect approach conventionally used in practice, and normal approach, that is what resolving with slopes with resolving P, one of the components is normal to the slope surface. So thus the safety factor for the vertical effect approach can be given by factor of safety 1 is equal to this is with the modified Bishop's method, and M alpha is nothing but cos alpha plus sin alpha into tan phi by factor of safety. So here where P is the axial tension per unit width and theta is the angle to indicate the orientation of the anchors. So we also require to know what is the position of this anchor from the toe of the slope. and for a given slope inclination, and what is the inclination of the anchor with the horizontal, that is theta, which is optimum, which can ensure the highest factor of safety. So the safety factor for the normal effect with particular resolution like has been discussed is that P sin plus alpha theta, P cos plus alpha theta, where safety factor for the normal effect approach can be obtained by dissolving axial tension in the anchor into two components, namely normal and tangential to the base of the slice, where the slip surface intersects the anchor, So at this portion where we actually resolve the forces as normal to the slip surface, that is P sin alpha plus theta, that is the component of P, and this is nothing but P cos of alpha plus theta. The tangential component of the axial tension was assumed to have no influence on the normal force at the base of the slice where the slip surface intersects with the anchor. So the factor of safety of the slope which is reinforced with the anchors can be obtained by normal approach by considering this particular type of resolving with considering the normal component of the anchor tension. We get this expression like this, where summation Cb plus W tan phi plus P sin alpha plus theta cos alpha tan phi by m alpha. So here you can see that both resisting forces and driving forces are getting modified. So this actually likelihood of giving the higher factor of safety. So the reinforcing mechanism of anchors in slopes can be explained using additional shearing resistance induced by the axial tension on the slip surface. The additional shearing resistance was given more rationally by the normal approach than the conventional vertical approach. So in this what we would like to impress upon is that the normal approach is actually provides additional shear resistance induced by the axial tension than the conventional vertical approach, and for a type which is actually considered by Kai and Ugai 2003 type of slope with a type of material what they have used with one vertical one horizontal slope, for that it is found that from their analysis that the stabilizing effect was optimal when theta is in the range of 7.5 to 22.5 degrees, and the anchor position is 2 meter horizontally from the crest of the one vertical one horizontal slope. So in stabilizing the slope with anchors, what we understood is that the stabilizing effect will be optimal and is found to depend upon the slope inclination and the anchor position which is also need to be looked upon, so that the optimum angle of inclination, optimum position of the anchor along the slope surface ensures a better slope stability by using anchors. So here this particular slide a typical application is actually shown, and this is the sliding portion, and this is the resulting with the anchor which is actually in place, an active anchor, and where you can see that the failure surface is actually subjected to a so called compressive force which actually makes the unstable portion to feel like tied with stable ground, and this is the fixed length portion, this is the free length portion, and this particular anchor this is actually a sheath, and this is the anchor with spacers, and this is actually shown. So basically this ensures the stability by providing the frictional resistance at the beyond the failure surface. So mobilization through the pre-stressing in case of active and relative displacement in case of passive. So basically here there are active anchors and passive anchors. The passive anchors in the sense that the soil movements make the mobilization of the tension. In case of pre-stressing or what you call is active is that without any soil movements, wherein what we tend to do is that we apply pre-tension to these anchors and lock the the arrangement, which is actually shown here. This is a concrete slab arrangement on the slope surface. This is the anchor. After applying adequate pretension, and these are locked here. So this actually ensures these are the active anchors, and this is something like to have both green vegetation as well as a support. This is something like called grid type of beams, which are actually used popular nowadays in number of applications. So this type of this thing is actually after Wakaigo 2012, wherein this type of applications are actually happening in the practice. The another technique which is actually used for stabilizing slopes, particularly clay slopes, soft clay slopes or silty clay slopes, wherein so basically this stone columns is a replacement technique, and which is used for improving the ground, enhancing the load carrying capacity. But there is because of in the stone columns, what will happen is that, or a granular column or a the replacement of the soil actually happens, and the soil is replaced with a stone charge or a granular material. The stone columns are basically having a diameter of about ranging from 400 mm to 1000 mm to 1200 mm. Basically here what will happen is that the soil borehole, which is actually done with a drilling, and sometimes vibro floats which are actually used, and then the material is actually supplied. So in this way, the use of the if it is done on the downstream of the road, the existing road can be used for the placement of the rigs and then drilling the boreholes for installing the stone columns. So basically here in this particular slide, a typical slope which is actually stabilized with stone columns, which is actually shown here, and if this is the potential failure surface, and it has to be ensured that this stone column traverses at a certain depth beneath the failure surface, and it is also required to understand the lateral stability of these stone columns, particularly when they are subjected to shear. So it will be interesting, say for example, to perform certain tests wherein whether this particular the at this interface, and whether it is adequate to have adequate retaining forces or not. But in this also there are different types of patterns of arrangements. One is the like what we use in soft ground improvement, the square layout or staggered pattern. So in the staggered pattern, or what we say that it is also called as in plan, they look like the stone columns are placed or positioned at equilateral triangular pattern, wherein what will happen is that you have S is the spacing, and each side of an equilateral triangle is actually having a size of S. So with that what will happen is that actually equilateral triangular pattern and square arrangement, out of this as far as the soft ground improvement is concerned, the equilateral triangular pattern was found to have superior performance. So here also for this slope stabilization using stone columns, the equilateral triangular pattern may provide adequate resistance and then provide higher average shear resistance. So this is actually designed by using the similar concepts which are actually adopted, that is the here this is the load which is actually apportioned by stone column as well as the ground. So this ratio which is actually called as the stress concentration, and here in this portion there are two methods. One is the average shear strength method, the other one is that to estimation of the shear strength by involving this the stress apportioned by the stone column and the ground. So this is the equilateral triangular pattern arrangement which is actually shown here, and here this is the square arrangement pattern. S is the spacing, and here also S is the spacing, and D is the diameter of the stone column. These are in the plan and this is in the cross section. So The another approach which we are actually going to discuss, which is actually called the average shear strength approach, which is popular, and once we get the average shear strength parameters based on a type of layout which is actually adopted for improving the stability of a slope, then those average shear strength parameters can be used, and then conventional slope stability analysis can be performed, and which actually can be used for getting the effect of the stone columns on the slope stability. So there are the softwares which actually can adopt this scheme and then give the factor of safeties. One of the examples is the Talrun, which actually has got a facility to incorporate stone columns and then different layouts to calculate the factor of safety of the effect of the stone columns. So here in this the stability calculations are carried out by using conventional slope stability analysis once we get the average cohesion and friction. So here C average is actually given as Cc into 1 minus AR plus Cs into AR, where Cc is equal to 1 minus AR and Cs is equal to 0 for stone column. So Cs is equal to 0 for stone column. So tan phi average, which is nothing but 1 minus AR into tan phi C plus SR into AR tan phi S divided by 1 plus AR into SR minus 1, when SR is nothing but 1 plus SRV minus 1 cos alpha, and gamma average is nothing but 1 minus AR into gamma C plus 1 plus AR into gamma S. So the different notations we will look into it. So the notations are nothing but C average is nothing but average cohesion to be used for the treated soil, and Cc is the cohesion of the in situ soil or the ground, and cohesion of the stone Cs in case of a stone charge it is 0. That is what is actually told in the previous slide. Tau average is nothing but average weighted shear strength within the area tributary to the stone column, that is within the unit cell, and SR is the stress ratio, which is also indicated as small n, appropriate to the orientation of the failure surface at the location, and SRV is nothing but the ratio of sigma C to sigma S to sigma S, the stress ratio or vertical stress in the stone column divided by that in the in situ soil. Being the strong material, the stone column actually apportions a higher portion of the stress than the surrounding soil, and AR is nothing but pi d square, where d is the diameter divided by 4s square for square array, and then AR is equal to pi d square by 4s square cos 30. This is for triangular pattern of arrangement. Then we have some other variables which actually we have used. Tau C is equal to the shear strength of the in situ soil, and tau S is the shear strength of the stone column. Then sigma S is nothing but the effective stress due to weight of the column and the applied loading, where gamma Z and S mu S, and the various other parameters like vertical stress in the in situ soil, and alpha is the angle of inclination of the failure surface from the horizontal, and mu S is nothing but SRE plus 1 plus SRV minus 1 into AR, where phi is the internal friction of the angle of the stone. Generally these stone columns are actually having a stone charge which ranging from 10 mm to 40-50 mm size of the particles, and then they basically in the gravel or in that particular range. So wherein it actually has got excellent friction angle depending upon the type of the stone. So it actually can have friction angle ranging from 38 to 42-44 degrees, and the internal friction angle of the in situ soil phi C, in case of undrained case where saturated, then phi C is equal to 0, and then phi average is the average internal friction angle of the treated soil, and gamma average is nothing but the average unit weight of the treated soil, that is actually composite soil, which is nothing but stone column reinforced ground unit weight, and gamma C is nothing but the unit weight of the in situ soil, and gamma S is nothing but the unit weight of the stone. So this was the method where the average shear strength parameters are estimated by using the method which is described below, and this allows us to perform the stability analysis by using stone columns. With that, there is a possibility that we can actually ensure, and then one of the other attributes of using stone columns is that because of their excellent drainage characteristics, the stone columns actually has the possibility of having allowing for excellent drainage. So this is a particular case study which was done by Keller India, that Keller Ground Engineering India Private Limited in 2007. In one of the ports below the berthing structure, particularly below the berthing structure, when what happens is that the slopes which are actually excavated to a certain depth, basically these are excavated up to -15, -16, depending upon the requirement of the heavy duty ships to come close to the berthing structure. So with that what will happen is that the slopes basically of clay in nature and very soft in nature. So with that what will happen is that there is a possibility that the slopes undergo failures. There are cases of failures which are actually reported in Kandla Port Trust, wherein in the 7th berth because of the instability caused due to failure of a ground which is actually beneath the berthing structure, resulted in the failure of piles of diameter equivalent to about 1 meter, and led to the the disturbances which actually have caused to the failure of the these particular slopes. So one of the viable options is to use this replacement method, replacing a stone, replacing the the clay, soft clay with this particular stone charge. So this is actually successfully used by here for stabilizing a slope below the berthing structure, and in order to ensure the stability, here the rock fill actually is provided. That makes actually the ensures the adequate stress concentration actually applied to the stone columns, and with that, so here in this they actually provided the these are the berthing structure piles which actually have gone, and this is the the stone columns which actually have been drilled basically to ensure the stability of a particular slope. The another technique which what we discussed is the slope stabilization by using lime slurry. So here basically here if the slope is actually having adequate is suitable for this type of the soil in the slope is suitable for this type of technique, then there is a possibility that the slope stabilization using injected lime slurry is used to pump the lime at high pressure. So this is one of the popular technique wherein if you are actually having existing slopes with for example with black cotton soils which are actually having low sulfates, then there is a possibility that you can actually use this injected lime slurry is one of the in situ method wherein we can actually use this technique to enhance the stability of a slope. So the more about the slope stabilization using lime slurry and lime, another form of inducing or improving the shear strength of the soil, particularly for a marine clay, using lime columns, slope stabilization using lime columns, and lime slurry is wherein the lime is injected with high pressure. So in this particular lecture we try to understand about methods for enhancing stability of slopes. We have been introduced to different types of slope stabilization techniques, and we actually have seen the mechanism of reinforcement by using anchors, and in case a deeper failures do occur, then we said that one of the methods which can be used is the slope stabilization using piles, where the forces are actually transferred to the deeper strata, and the piles here are used as retaining elements and used as retaining elements to restrain the slope movements.